Probably
whatever,
get
Lake
started.
George. And then we went
There's a
sailing
lot
up
going
on
on today. People think
Lake
it's today.
Superior,
Yes,
2,000-pound keel.
Kathleen,
Oh, is
she's
that
ready to
right?
start.
Gotta get hold of the water, the
wow.
horses.
Talking about
Huh?
that.
You gotta get hold of the water, the
My
horses.
husband was quite a sailor. Oh,
Uh-huh.
God.
Joe, you need to catch up. You're like, wow.
Well,
Listen, I think we're, as Connie mentioned, we've got the talk up thing to talk about.
Yep.
Like, you take-
Yep. So I met with Chris last week to talk about continuing education, and because it takes a while to get that set up. And I had to provide some information to the Tall Cop organization about, details where it is, and again, what time, and what are we expecting, maybe just going over the details. And so anyway, that's why I met with Chris, and she's getting that started with Indian. It goes for the medical field, it's going through Indian Hills. So she's organizing that. I'm gonna have lunch today with Zach Weigel from the school, and we'll figure out what kind of continuing education is available for teachers, administrators, counselors through the school system. So we'll be talking about that. And but one of the things originally, well, just so everybody knows, because Joe's new, the date is April 29th. From 8 to noon is the continuing education piece for professionals. So, and then it's from 6 to 6,
I thought you said 6 to 7:30,
6 to 7:30.
but I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, 6 to 7:30
Okay.
is the community night. And we had arranged with the high school to have it in the high school auditorium. However, the discussion with Chris, and discussing how many people they had at Van Buren County a couple of years ago, she said there were 50 or more people. So we are concerned about the parking if we have it at high school during the day. Especially since it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. The buses will still be there, so nobody will have that parking area. So we checked with the Arts and Convention Center to find out how much it would cost to have it there. And basically for rental and, the sound and projector and coffee, they gave us a quote of $710. I would like to up that actually up to $800, because we would like to offer muffins or something for a break, cookies, that kind of thing. So I'm asking on this piece to spend up to $800 to have it up here where people will not have to fight for parking and not park, hopefully 2 blocks away or 3 blocks away. So,
If it would have been at a different time, but when the buses are still gonna be in the loading zone area, and then you've got all the students parking. I don't know if you guys have been at the high school recently for any reason, but it's difficult to try to find a parking spot.
yeah. And I think we'll have actually better sound, and it's a
Yeah.
little bit more intimate too than the whole auditorium. So I think in the long run, maybe it's a better space for the professional meeting.
Yeah. Do you want me to, so for the continuing, excuse me, for the continuing ed portion of it, this is something I did in my previous job when I worked at the hospital. We go under Indian Hills provider number for the Board of Nursing and EMS, respiratory therapy. So it would be considered a co-sponsor for continuing ed. We're using their number. So there's a $20 course fee to process the course. So it costs $20. And then each certificate, excuse me, is $10 for all certificates issued. So that is really cheap to get 4 hours of continuing education.
So they get CEUs.
Yes. And I haven't reached out to Lori yet from Indian Hills, but Lori Reeves is the contact person. So I'm going to apply for nursing, RT, which is respiratory therapy, social work. I mean, I'm going to apply for all the disciplines that they offer: respiratory therapy, social work, EMS, and see what that looks like. But there's at least a 4-week lead time. So as soon as I get the information from Connie and whatever the Board of Supervisors decides on, then I'll move forward with jumping through the hoops to get CEUs.
The 3 of us are here. We should put that on the agenda. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're gonna be just fine.
That would be awesome. And I don't know how, I don't know how many. I think there was about 50 or give or take individuals at the Tall Cop presentation in Keosauqua, and we could do it one of two ways. Like some people can turn in a certificate. They might not need official continuing education, but they can turn in a certificate to their licensure board, and then they can get like their credit without having to jump through the hoops like the board of nursing. So it's all, I don't know, when we're looking at the numbers, it may be beneficial to just offer that $10 certificate to all the participants in the morning class, and then they can submit it. Like, I'm gonna use Brett, for example, like the emergency management coordinator, like he doesn't have to have some official CEUs he have to have, but then he can turn in just like our salamander training a few weeks ago, he could just turn in that certificate to his board for education, even though there's no formal continuing ed credits issued. Am I making sense?
Apply it where you can.
Yes, if you can get credit under your own board, then great. So I don't know if you wanna, like, when we have a further discussion, I'm just advocating, maybe spend up to this amount of money for the whole presentation. That would include the room. And then up to, I don't know, you could
So
just say
at 50
200.
people, that would be 1,500.
Yeah, up to a certain amount, and then it'd only be expended if we needed to. Now, Indian Hills only invoices quarterly according to their contract. So then, they would invoice us in July, because they invoice in April, July, October, and January. So you wouldn't see this invoice as a payment until July, which would be the next fiscal year, which I could talk to Lori and say, hey, this could be a budget. I don't know if it'd be a budget issue or not, so I don't want to have that in a different fiscal year is what I'm saying. That's what I know.
So what I would suggest that we allow up to 2,000 for continuing ed. That gives us plenty of cushion. And then 800 for the
Yes,
room
right
and
now,
costs.
no more than 20,000 for the Tall Cop.
Right, what was I don't know what.
You could add, so let's say another 1,000 for over here. And then
Yeah.
1,500. So
Well,
you're looking at, that would be, okay, price medium.
yeah, I don't know what I don't remember what it was in that initial cost. Is that all paid for? I don't know. I don't know. the answer to that.
I think we've just put a down payment on it.
Okay, I don't,
With essentially obligated.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
But that was what our total was 20,000. So I think everything, this would include that, because the Tall Cop is 13 something. And the other two seminars we did, they weren't very expensive. We didn't have that many people sign on to them, so we're probably fine.
So the only other question I have about CE credit, continuing ed credit, is we're not offering continuing ed credit for the evening program, right? That's
Right,
just a
correct.
community, okay,
It's just community.
okay.
Yeah.
I just want to get that right in
Yeah.
my head.
So the speaker's fee is 12,300. And then, we had 2 invoices for those webinars. That was 1,230 and 117. So if we authorize 20,000, we got plenty of money to do the CE and the
We're
room.
good. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And those are all really good ideas. Let's put this.
Yeah, okay, so then I'll firm that up with the Civic Center
And I'll wait until I get all of the speaker information, because I have to have his resume or CV to submit, and they're gonna get that to Connie,
Yeah.
so. Cause it's just a timing issue, otherwise we would have waited till after this meeting, but Susie and I had a conversation. I don't
Yeah,
know,
we did.
well, a while back about the CEs that we got, like from
Right.
the program when we went in Keosauqua, because they didn't charge the professionals for their CE credits, which is a nice,
Yeah.
which is a nice
An awfully
perk.
good way for people to get CEU.
It is. And we go, Stacy can attest to this. We go to so many trainings, so many meetings, and we can't get CEUs for them as nurses because they have to be pre-approved. So they all have to have a board of nursing number, and it's a process. So to have this taken care of on the front end is nice for people, and then we can advertise it that way as well.
Chris, question, people would want to do the training without CEUs, is there a charge for that?
No.
No,
So that would be, the only reason I'm concerned that if, when we put out our information, that if it looks like it sells CEUs and somebody is just interested,
no.
that's one option on there.
No, I think in most of the time when I used to do this, I just put, list what CEUs free nursing CEUs, EMS CEUs will be offered,
Right.
approved and offered.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's open to anyone. It's just,
Yeah.
it's sometimes you might get professional people that you wouldn't otherwise get because they're like, well, I don't have 4 hours of my day to go to this training if I'm not gonna get CEUs. And if you say, hey, I'm gonna get CEUs, especially if your nursing license due for renewal, then you're gonna take a personal day or a CEU day to attend. So,
And I know he does prefer professional people in the field, so that's a big gamut, you know, versus just a parent coming that doesn't have any background in medical and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean they can't go.
and that's why I think that everybody that attends, Stace, chime in on this too, Bethany, you too. If everybody that attends the morning session gets a certificate, then they can submit it to their mental health license or board or however that looks. So
Yeah.
we'll just plan for everybody in the morning to get a certificate is what I'm
Which
saying.
groups are able to get continuing education? Is it
I'm only a-
everyone in the health.
I'm only applying for these disciplines and it's very specific. So like,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, like your licensure board is like nursing is one of the most difficult things to get CEUs for other than physicians, CME. So it would be nursing, EMS, respiratory therapy, social work. But like I said, sometimes professional people can submit just the certificate. If it's been approved by the board of nursing, some other places just take it. So this is what I'm gonna apply for.
CMEs, they can get CMEs for that, I think, but it just wouldn't be category 1.
Okay,
So they've loosened a little bit, like category 1's still difficult to get approved, but anything, like you have to have so many category 1s and then so many category 2s or others. And that I think would probably meet for category 2. So if you had a, like a physician that said, well, again, like a lot of their things, like I don't wanna go if I'm not gonna get CMEs, they could turn that in for CMEs for category 2, it just probably wouldn't be for category 1. But beyond the health field, if you're asking like whether, you know, I don't know what you have to have as a lawyer, like, if
See.
like you would have to know,
Teachers.
like someone else in a different realm would have to know what you need.
I was mainly just asking because I thought at one point we were talking about making sure that like we included like educators and people.
So
And
you were
and
here.
having it at this, oh. okay,
Yeah,
I wasn't-
sorry, we started
Sure.
right before you got here, but I'm meeting with Zach Weigel today, the superintendent, and try to find out what the school
Right.
requirements are, what they need to process anything for any of their employees
yeah, I have.
and surrounding schools.
To like incentivize,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, buy-in from the
Yes.
school district, especially if we're not gonna be having it there and it's not gonna be
Yeah.
as convenient for teachers to come down, you know.
Yeah.
The expectation though is like, you don't get your certificate until the training is done. You know, you fill out your paperwork and then you get to pick your certificate up at the end of the training. That's how it works with nurses. You don't get your certificate when you sign in. So you can't like hop in and hop out.
Right.
So teachers, you know, if they're working, they're gonna have to take a personal day or something. I mean, because it's 4-hour training. To Stacy's point with physicians too, you have to be affiliated with the university to get, like Indian Hills can't offer physician credit. It has to be like at the University of Iowa, and then that's another whole process. But
For
like,
category 1,
yeah,
category 2,
yeah.
they can
Yeah.
self-report.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
We're trying to take care of the CEUs that I can
Yeah.
take care of at the college. So.
Yeah.
For
Chris,
$10,
are we
it's cheap.
Are we gonna have someone that's like manning a
Yes.
table or something for these people to
Yeah.
sign up for their
Yes.
certificates or whatnot? That's just something
Yeah.
to throw out.
Yeah, we'll take care of that. But I've already talked to Deb and if you
Okay.
can help or whoever wants to help, because it'll, you know, we'll have the certificates ready to go and then they can fill them out and then we'll sign them and then they can pick them up at the end. Yeah, but if you want to volunteer, that's great.
So it sounds like
I
you're okay on the
understand I've been
cost.
volunteer.
Yeah, and just as a side note, they requested, just so y'all know, they requested 2 uniformed law enforcement for the evening for security. He wants them there 45 minutes ahead, so I've arranged for 1 city police officer. It's not confirmed yet, and I've also talked to Bart. He'll provide an officer. So. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I don't know if
I will.
He
say-
has security concerns just because of what he does. He's coming into the community to do a scan the day before. You know, it's hard to know.
Right,
So, but that's what they have requested.
Yeah, they didn't say why.
No, not exactly. And I didn't have a conversation. It was just in the documents that they gave me. And so I'm just sharing that with you that we will be using law enforcement.
And there were
resources.
law enforcement officers that participated at the one in Keosauqua. There's deputies there.
Yeah.
So maybe if they knew that they were gonna participate, then he wouldn't request that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was a professional meeting too. I don't know. As a former cop, he
Yeah.
knows how people
Yeah,
are.
and he,
You know?
it's not requested for the professional meeting,
Yeah.
but the parent meeting
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
So interesting.
yeah.
Maybe he's had an incident in the past, and so he just covers that right at the start.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, it makes sense realistically. You know, if they're like, oh, it's your kid that's doing X, Y, and Z, and your kid's forcing my kid, or, you know, something weird like that. So it makes some sense.
Yeah. I think that's it. Once we get his information, we'll share it, we'll post it on social media and get it going. If they don't send a flyer, we'll
Yeah,
get
so
one made, so.
I request that to receive that by February 1, so hopefully in the next few days, I'm gonna have that, and then we can really start pushing it out there.
February 20th,
February 1st,
first.
the class.
To get the information.
Oh, no, no, the class.
Yeah,
Class,
April 29th.
April 29th.
April 29th.
I know it seems early, but it's really not when you gotta have a 4-week lead time. It used to be 8 weeks.
It
for
will come quick.
CEUs. So,
And I also, on the second note, because Elizabeth mentioned this to me too, is in my lunch with Zach today, I'm going to broach the subject of any training that they could do or want to do that they need support with, that these monies could be used for. So, and any programs that they would like to get done. So,
But like if there's a certain curriculum that they could implement there, I don't know if it would be in like life skills or something early that we've talked about that might be more general about like dealing with peer pressure or making good choices that you know, the school would feel comfortable implementing at an early age. That's not specifically targeted to like saying no to drugs.
yeah, so we'll see what the school needs and how, if we can create any partnerships there with that. That's the big reason, one of the main reasons to have a lunch with Zach, and he's so busy, and so you kind of need to pin him down over food. And because we don't, the group that's working in the mental health group, you know, has had a hard time, you know, the interactions with the school has been challenging, just because they're all so busy and they all have kind of their own programs and their own thing they're doing. And so we just want to know how to be helpful. And that's the best way.
well, and then with the Alcohol and Tobacco Free Coalition, you know, there's so many services and providers within the community that have changed, or their services have changed, or their funding has changed. So just when you think you got it figured out and you know who's providing what service where, it's all different, you know, so that's why we keep having that meeting, just so community partners can figure out what's still going on in the community. Otherwise, we don't know. It's like we're operating in silos, and that's not good. And Stacy's the one that sees the brunt of it in the emergency department. So it's like, you know, it's all encompassing. It's just challenging. So we want the best utilization of the funds. See,
Of course.
we want to make the biggest, yeah, you want the biggest impact. We don't know what that really is for sure sometimes, but you gotta do something. So I am excited about this program, having listened to him and participated. I think he did a great job because he makes it real to the community. Because when he flies in, whether he's flying into Cedar Rapids or Des Moines, then he does like a windshield survey of your community, and he goes in to like the stores in your communities and identifies products and has them discussed in his presentation. And he's like, hey, do you know your kids, people have access to this or this or this? this is what I found in, whatever store. And you can pretty much tell where it's, if you pay attention when you go into stores, it's like, oh my God, there's so much stuff that's accessible to so many people that we don't even clue into.
Well,
So-
and some of us don't have kids. I mean, I just think we're just not educated about what some of this stuff is.
No. Or not.
Was this supposed to be a meeting? I got an email with all these people,
This is the work session.
and I thought that this, I thought that this was the,
This is not the ACT meeting. This was discussed at the ACT meeting and several people wanted to join this meeting today or this work session. That's why that got sent out. Because at the last meeting, people were talking about it too. So this is
it's
not the
not
AC,
about
no, this is not the
opioid.
this is the opioid meeting. Yeah, it is.
it is?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to figure out, how to figure out to expend these dollars for this program that we're having.
Well, listen, so this is where I come in, but I volunteer to do what I'm doing. You got money? That's good. I don't mean to interrupt.
Well, before you start, I have to finish this thought because we gotta
No,
make sure that.
finish your meeting and
Yeah,
then, and
let
then
me
I'll talk.
finish this right quick because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So Lee, you're the chair. Susie's the chair of this committee, but so for the good of the order for this meeting, I want to make sure you guys, for the good of the order. So you guys are gonna put this on your agenda to take action on. That's
No,
my
we-
ask.
No, we've already done that.
No, it's good. We don't
Okay.
need it. All right,
Yeah.
all right. That's why I wanted to clarify if it
Yeah.
was the same amount or if we needed to do something
No,
again.
we've got enough money in what we've already
All right,
authorized
I didn't
before.
know for sure.
Just to recap,
20,000 Yeah.
We've paid for t-shirts. You know,
last year. Yeah.
correct.
Mhm.
And we've got the money set aside for this.
Okay.
So
Okay,
Yeah, so we got enough.
all right.
But we
so
do
that's
need
already
to
been approved.
we do need to be invoiced.
Yeah,
We have to show, I mean,
Right.
whoever,
Yeah, yeah.
will have to show invoice.
Okay,
yeah, that, you'll get that.
right, okay. Anything else for this part of this discussion and then we'll, Kathleen can.
Well, I just have one question to you, Chris. Have
Thank
you,
you.
or to anybody, have you guys been to other programs that are in sort of this vein that we could bring in? Because it would be nice to have something kind of continuing, instead of just, oh, we're doing this one thing and nothing happens for 5 years. That doesn't make sense. You kind of gotta do an ongoing education. So if there's something 6 months later or in the fall, that kind of thing.
We did talk about at one point, training regarding, because we were talking about, naloxone accessibility
Yeah.
and like maybe not telling people like when to administer it, but like what are some of the signs, somebody who's experiencing an overdose or, just things to like more general information for people in the community to, recognize what you're seeing. And that's
There is a group in Iowa that does do naloxone training that will come to communities and talk to like school age kids on up about what naloxone is, how you can get it, when to use it, and etc. such as that. Is
I don't
that
even
what
know what
you're
that is.
talking about?
Narcan.
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 Okay.
And I know
It's
that,
opioid.
at one point, we did have the school nurse in here and she was saying like that would be helpful for her. Now, I don't know how the school generally would feel about it, but even for, like the nurse there, she says, we have it. We have access to it, but we, teachers, maybe the nurse, not necessarily, but some of the teachers there who may be witnessing some of that would not know what they're seeing necessarily.
Yeah.
So that might be helpful training for the school, but again, that would be going to the school or other community members who
Yeah.
maybe.
I'll talk with Zach about that today.
Yeah.
Chris, I would say we should have another meeting soon.
Yeah.
And I charge all of you with finding a program, finding something you can all look at the same time and say what to do.
Yeah.
Because it's out there, you can talk to your
Yeah. Yeah.
coworkers.
Yeah, I think as a community from the public health lane, a lot of counties aren't really doing a lot with the money, or it's gone to like, community action or something like that. So it's not like staying within the supervisor realm is what I'm saying. So you guys are in charge of that funding and distribution. So I think it just looks like whatever in each county, which is unfortunate, instead of it being a comprehensive push forward, we're gonna do this as a state or the counties that receive the settlement funds. So that's a good point. I
We're
will,
gonna wait for the state to decide.
yeah, no, we can't do that. We can't wait. We gotta figure it out.
But even if counties could band together and,
Yeah.
you know, put their funds
Yeah.
together, because it would go so much farther.
Yeah, are you, okay.
I know Wapello County is really, the public health director is really not involved in their settlement. I will say this, it's gonna be on my Board of Health agenda for the health department to be a Narcan site. But I can't make, I mean, I could make that decision by myself, but I think it's definitely a board decision. It would be at no charge, so that's gonna be on my next Board of Health agenda, which will be the 20th of February. We're meeting a month early.
What does that mean?
So the health department could distribute, or if it,
Administer.
say you wanted to come get some Narcan, I could just give it to you. It's taxpayer funded. There are no questions asked. It's my understanding I don't have to have a standing order from my medical provider. It can just be distributed because it's through the state. But I have to find out more information, and that's gonna be on the Board of Health's agenda for their meeting to discuss. But then it's only available during business hours, and some people might not want to even come and get it, where some places have like a box, but then you gotta keep it temperature controlled and all these other things. So anyway, so I will have more to report on that after my board meeting. So anyway, okay, sorry Kathleen, I just wanted to close the loop on the tall cop and make sure I didn't need to ask for more money, seriously.
You got it.
Because these guys know that I'm all about asking for money.
For the good of the order.
For the good of the order, for the greater good. Sorry, thank you.
I want to tell you, I miss that coalition that we used to have out at the fairgrounds.
We meet on Zoom now. We do it on Zoom.
You are,
Yeah, that's the ACT meeting. Yep.
huh? Oh, that's what that is.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so I am an addiction counselor, a chemical dependency counselor, and I'm an educator. I used to work with special ed kids in the Minneapolis School District as well as in some of the Iowa schools around different places in Iowa. I was a substitute for that. So we put on in 2014. It was called the Fairfield Suicide Coalition, Prevention Coalition. And it ended up 20 people did it. Started, it took 6 months. And we had somebody come down from the public health department, Pat McGovern, and he went over to MSAE, talked to them about what was going on over there. And so then I was listening to Connie about 3 months ago saying that we're having 3 suicides or 3 suicide attempts in Fairfield every month. And then I watched on YouTube the court thing about the 2 students who murdered the teacher.
By the way, Kathleen, and just so everybody knows, that statistic came from Chief Thomas, who says we are average, we're not above average in that stat across the country.
Well, okay, and then I was listening to the governor on the radio about 6 o'clock in the afternoon and in the evening on my radio, and she was giving a talk, and she said that Iowa and 4 other states are the highest binge drinkers in the whole United States. And she's proposing, believe it or not, $1 million. Now, this is on record, and I called her office and I talked to the woman. I said, if I go out and I'm doing what I'm doing, I need to have facts. This really is what they're doing. They want to pass a bill to investigate, to do whatever, the combining of cancer and alcoholism. And that's really all I know.
Well, I was number 2 in cancer diagnosis, second only to the state of Kentucky.
It is.
Yes.
Is that
That is a
right?
recent, that is a fact.
Radon being a good
Well, you
portion
put
of it.
cancer and
That's
then
not
drinking.
all related to binge.
No, it's not related, but what I'm saying is, and they can't identify, there's not one cancer that is ahead of the others. It's across the board cancer diagnoses. We're number 2 in the United States.
Wow. Okay, so I've been wanting to do this for about 4 or 5 years. It took about 2 years finally to find a place. And I went all over town looking at buildings and the structures and look at the screen and the whole thing. I only found it a community center, which is 2 blocks away from where I live. And in order to do this deal, I had to meet with the board of directors. So there were about maybe many people around a table, and I presented all my information, all about Dr. John Bradshaw. And they said, definitely, we want to do it. So I was interviewed by Andy Holman, and this was in the newspaper, January 16th. So that was the newspaper article about what they're doing at the community center. So at the community center, we are presenting Fairfield Center, along with Kathleen Casey, addiction counselor and a Lyrian life skills coach, will host a 10-part series featuring the recorded lectures of the late John Bradshaw, their videos. John was one of the leading figures in the field of addiction, recovery, and relationships. Anybody ever heard of him? No? Well, I come from Minneapolis, and when I got into my own recovery for what they call codependency, living with people with alcoholism particularly,
So what is his lecture series cover?
Okay, the bottom line is, I just got a paragraph here. He was one of the leading figures. It's about him. First, I have to tell you about him. In the fields of addiction recovery, he was selected by a group of peers as one of the most influential writers on emotional health in the 20th century. During his life, he was one of the most sought-after speakers. Truly, he was. And truly touched the lives of millions. We are going to have the first lecture this Saturday morning on what he calls families in crisis. He was in a seminary, went to a lot of school, was an alcoholic, they kicked him out. When he got out, he really didn't have any money, he didn't have a car, and so on and so forth. But he went through treatment, he quit. And as I've watched these 10, it's called Family Series, they're 10 parts, family series of 10 lectures. And the first one is the crisis in the family, the healthy family, the unhealthy family, the compulsive family, which really talks a lot about codependency, but we all have a tendency on some. The persecuted child, what he calls the bad child. He says children are not bad. Well, he goes into this long thing. The most common family illness, help for the family, help for the family, and hope for the family. As I've watched these off and on for 2 years, I could just take so much. First one I watched several times, and then I go back and I watch it and I think, I missed that. But really what he says is, this is fascinating. I don't want to go into all that, but he talks about systems and that we create our own system with within our own family according to our behavior, our thoughts, our feelings. And community has a system, national has a system. And if it's dysfunctional, it hurts on some level. So he's going to talk about all that. It's $1 per person each time you come, $10 for the whole thing. And I'm so passionate about this because I lost my children to a court in St. Paul in 1980 who wouldn't look at my journals. He wouldn't talk about alcoholism in the courtroom. And what he'd been doing is molesting my children. And it came out when one was 32 and one was 29. My one daughter has a daughter who's a meth addict who was staying with my daughter for a while. She went into treatment. She was doing fine. She slapped my daughter, and my daughter wants to take her daughter away. I came down here to heal, and I heal and heal and heal. And actually, I love my life. I wouldn't give my life, I wouldn't change it for anything because I was at the bottom, I thought. And I think I'm probably about 3/4 of the way up from where I want to be. I'm 85. I went to 4 treatment centers in Minneapolis for codependency before I came down here. And part of my degree from the University of Minnesota was learning all that I did about recovery. I put it into another degree that I had called recreational therapy. I wrote my paper and I came down here to meditate. I belonged to a friend's church and I gave the pastor information to send it out to all the churches. I went over to the high school and talked to Nathan, who works for the kids at risk. He gave me about 20 minutes of his time. I gave him information. I went out to the well, the hospital, Bethany's group, which I do belong to. I spent about 3 days for 4 hours each, just going from place to place, talking and getting people's ideas. If we're having 3 suicides or attempted suicide per month, and we had in one summer 8, and we're binge drinking, and they put in a liquor store. Have you ever heard of Mother Divine? It's on the square, Church of the Holy Spirit. I live upstairs in that building. Saint Germain Sanctuary is upstairs. Mother Divine. It's a very, very wonderful place, very spiritual. I associate with people who don't this or that or the other thing. But I found myself learning to have boundaries when I'm uncomfortable. And Anyway, so the one more thing. I went over to the recreation center, suicide warning signs for youth. As you go into the rec center, that's what it says, the minute you go into the building. Suicide warning signs for youth. Displaying severe, overwhelming emotional pain or distress. Showing worrisome changes in behavior, et cetera, et cetera. Withdrawal. The thing is, bullying is when somebody bullies or does something to you. And then if they don't heal or know what to do about it, they're gonna bully somebody else. Years ago, I went to the women's shelter in Ottumwa when they had a shelter way out somewhere. And I went into the building, I took a course. It took a long time to get through that course. And it didn't, they didn't have enough information to really understand themselves and how to work with these kids. You can't fix people. People don't want to be fixed. But you can have compassion for them and you can show them that you have compassion for them. Yes, my husband did molest my kids. He's got money. He's got a lot of money. San Diego. The fire didn't hit him, but his house is worth $2 million. They bought a sailboat, 52-foot sailboat. And he and his wife sailed the ocean for 6 years. So while he was sailing, neglecting his kids, right after they graduated, I was down here healing and connecting with people who were just people who were taking responsibility for their community.
So I think for us, Kathleen, I think as a group of professionals, elected officials, I think the thing is, we are in roles to facilitate having services available or supporting services that are available. You made the reference, and we know this, you can't force somebody into treatment. You can't make somebody do anything, even if they're court ordered, you can't. I mean, yeah, they gotta show up, they gotta participate in whatever said activity is, but that doesn't mean they get it or that they want to be healed. So that comes from a place of your own internal drive and ability to heal yourself, because nobody can do it for you. So I think, yes, to your point earlier, you did drop that stuff off at our office with Deb the other day. So
That's what
this starts on Saturday, you said, so it's $1 per person.
it's $1 per person.
So the only question, how long has this gentleman been gone from this earth? Has it been a little while or?
He's been gone. He died probably about 6 years ago.
Okay, so would people be familiar? Because I didn't know him, but I don't live in that world either. I'm not a therapist.
Well, I
so-
tell you what, I'm 85. I was in the throes of recovery. The courts didn't understand, but there were a lot of treatment programs. John Bradshaw and Melody Beattie and a ton of people were in the recovery business. This
Right.
is a book called Homecoming, Championing Your Inner Child. He talks about our inner child
Okay.
and how hurt we were.
I guess the reason for my question was if people heard that name, like I'm not familiar with him, but that doesn't mean anything because I'm not familiar with
Well,
him.
if you look them up.
Yeah, if you
Just
Google his
look
name
him
or
up.
whatever. Okay, that was the reason for my question is like, if somebody says that name, are they gonna go, oh yeah, I remember him from here. He passed away last year or whatever that may be. So,
I just, what can we do? Just
yeah, what can we do to?
Okay, so what
Because-
can you do?
Because
So,
this group is action oriented. Just give us an idea of what you're hunting for.
alrighty, action oriented. I don't know what you mean by your action oriented, but this is pretty action, this is.
No, I'm just saying, what can
This
we
is,
do to
this is
help
a
you?
relational, good, thank you. So I just wanted to come to the meeting to tell you that it's gonna be available.
Oh,
Great,
You wanna come?
Good.
okay.
So
if
have
you
you
can't-
posted that on
listen.
Facebook that people could share or anything?
Yes. It's on Facebook.
On your page or what?
I can't get into it. I was
Where
on
is it
once.
posted?
Yeah.
It's posted through a spiritual group. I can't remember. Somebody did it for me. I'll find
Cause I
out.
didn't know, does the community center post stuff on their Facebook page? for
I don't
anything?
know.
I mean, we go there and
Facebook
do
page.
nurse stuff, but I don't know, if they post it. Okay.
Now, this opiate or addiction is, I was sitting there looking through this magazine and by gosh, it says opioid. A baby is born addicted to opioids, and I printed those out for each one of you just to look at. I work with special ed kids in Minneapolis, and the one kid that I worked with was, oh, what was it called? It was, alcohol fetal syndrome. Just by the mother using what she was
Right.
doing, the baby was very, very effective.
Is there anything through the hospital with, when women come in, they figure out they're pregnant, does the hospital, do the clinics give them anything about this topic? Any educational materials?
You know, honestly, through the emergency department, we don't. Sometimes we're the like, we do tell people they're pregnant, but that's not, it's because we're looking for like whether they can safely go to X-ray or those type of things because, and maybe Bethany can speak to the clinics, but because we don't have, OB-GYN anymore, it's not something that like that population that we see a ton of.
Mhm.
We still see people in the ER that are pregnant and need other sorts of services. But I don't know, Bethany, do you know of anything at the clinic that is routinely given?
I don't think anything routinely. I think it just varies by the provider and why the patient was coming and
So I know that there is, as long as they're getting prenatal care,
Right.
if they're getting prenatal care, it's definitely something that is offered through those services, when you go to your appointments. That's definitely something that's green for. But as far as just for us, like if we would need delivery,
Yeah, don't say it.
if we were routinely delivering and planning to deliver babies, that would be something that we would be mandated to do. I know that, through like Atumwa and any of the birthing units, there's a big piece with DHS and making sure babies are safe to go home.
I wonder also, through the Women's Crisis Center, I mean, obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but it seems to me that probably a lot of women who end up in the crisis center, there's some kind of issue with alcohol, drugs.
Right.
Some of that is some of the start of abuse, you know what I'm saying? And I wonder what things they have, that if there's any way to interact there and provide any kind of.
And CETA might already be doing something. I don't know, our community action, which is CETA, they might already be doing something. I don't know.
we
Let's-
don't really see very much of that in the clinic, I wouldn't say. A lot of it is like they're coming to confirm a home pregnancy test or something like that, and it's more or less just referring them on to OB. There's not much to, kind of like what Stacy said, there's not much to that follow-up of following the person after they're pregnant, if that, I'm not sure if that answers the question.
It really kind of gets to giving them their options of who's delivering, because that obviously is changing.
Yeah.
Or has changed drastically in the last 10 years about, people that offer.
Well, obviously, we
Service.
know that when a baby is born drug addicted, they potentially have a lifetime of challenges. And I've heard of people, no, I quit drinking because I'm pregnant. Women will change their behaviors.
Yep.
So the
Sometimes
more
they
we
do.
could get women to change their behaviors during that time period.
Yep.
It would certainly help. You know, and it's gonna help later in life for the child.
Right.
So if there's something we can do in that area,
I
maybe
think
that's useful.
touching that demographic is gonna be difficult just because we don't have any providers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
Yeah.
our area that do
Yeah.
that. But I don't disagree. I think it's a great
Yeah.
thing. I will, but there are a good number of people who still don't get any prenatal.
can you find out if CETA does anything through the crisis center
Yeah,
or,
I can, I'll email.
you know?
Just for the sake of.
We have-
Because time is
we
running
have-
away from me today.
We have one counselor, drug counselor through CETA, 1 day a week on Friday. That's unbelievable horrible. In Fairfield. 1 day a week on Friday, so all he's here. And I've been. trying to
Unfortunately,
get
it goes
a
back
hold
to
of him.
funding. It goes back to insurance access. Those things are above us. I mean, we can't fix Medicaid reimbursement. We can't fix access to providers. We can try, but those things are legislatively above us.
Mm,
It doesn't mean it's right. It's just the way, unfortunately,
Yeah.
it is. Cindy?
Yeah, just for the sake of time only, because my life is a little wonky at the moment. Is there anything in the last few minutes that we have, is there anything that I can do at a hospital level or information that Bethany and I can bring back that gives anybody, that we would have a deadline, because that's sort of what I need at this point is if there's information that you need, to help make decisions to drive moving some of these things forward. I don't know what that looks like. I just thought I would throw it out there and ask, and then I'm gonna have to run, so. I don't know what information. I know we've seen a tremendous uptick, at least it feels like to us, in substance and meth specifically, in the recent couple of months. It's been a little rough, but
Alcohol as well has been an uptick here lately too, it seems like.
so. I would love to have some, be able to say, hey, we have this data and this is what we're doing with it.
Right, right.
But I don't know what that I'm not sure what to bring for it, so.
Well, it makes me, with that statement that Kathleen just said, one drug counselor for 1 day per week. What does that look like for that person? Is it not enough? To me, that's something that, and I'm not a big one to say, hey, let's hire someone, because, in
Right.
2 years it's gone, right?
Exactly.
However, if we needed additional counselors, if we could find one and then share some cost with some other communities or other counties where, where that
Or other
person,
jail systems.
and where they are going around, where we could employ someone for several years, to
River
me, that would
Hills,
be valuable.
River Hills has an addiction counselor as well. It's just through Zoom because they're actually based in Oskaloosa.
Yeah.
And there's somebody who goes into the jails and offers treatment too, according to Bart.
Is
Yeah.
it mental health, is substance, or both, or? Cause before they leave the jail to go to treatment, they have to have a assessment, so is it? I
Well,
don't
there
know.
is a nurse who will provide like physical assessments.
Right,
But no,
No, I'm not disagreeing
Oh.
with you. I'm just saying that person wouldn't be.
doing.
mental health stuff,
But my understanding is that there is somebody who comes in and
Okay.
offers.
the mental health part.
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought it was through CETA,
okay,
but
it very well could be. So I
I
don't
can
have
ask
the current
Joni.
list. I'm sorry, Bethany, what?
I can ask Joni because she's like the provider who goes out to the,
Yeah, she's the
Yeah.
educator who goes there. I don't even have a current list of the 12-step programs in this community. It used to be published like in the ledger years ago. So like Al-Anon, Alateen, AA, again, any of those 12-step programs, there used to be a comprehensive list of meetings, whether the meetings were open, meaning anyone could attend, or if they were closed, meaning only that specific group could attend. Does anybody have that list? Does anybody?
so I have a list of those, Chris, that I've put together just using like the internet and such.
Okay,
A
Do you-
lot of them though, like the Al-Anon meetings, a lot of those have kind of fizzled out and
See, that's my point.
No, there's not. There's what, 12 people in the Al-Anon group that meet every Saturday morning.
right, but there used to be
Morning.
like 3 groups and now there's 1.
Yeah,
I wonder
yeah.
too, how much has shifted with the, with the availability of Zoom meetings.
Right.
Yeah,
Do you know?
Kathleen, do you have that information?
Yeah, I don't have maybe all of it, but I do have, Golden Magnolia has, some meetings going on in their building,
Okay.
Codependency Anonymous has 2 people only. We used to have 20. Now we have 2. Before COVID came.
Yeah, everything's COVID's fault.
Then on Friday night over at Friends Church, every Friday night at 8 o'clock, it's a big meeting.
So Susie, for the next meeting, Elizabeth, you guys are what is the next meeting, I guess, and what action steps, like we need like, how can we help the hospital, the 12-step group schedules, all that kind of stuff would be helpful. I'll reach out to CETA about the counselor for the crisis center to see what they do.
Has something I saw recently.
I'm sorry, Stacey, what?
The well has
Well.
some kind of program, but it's like it's basically, it's a 12-step that fits for everything. It's not just alcohol, it's not
Yeah.
just,
yeah.
it's not.
Okay,
They have the It Works program too.
okay.
I was curious too, that I wanted to research, transportation options for people who do have to go to, like through a court ordered, like there's drug court in Ottumwa. And then
Mhm.
there's sometimes people attend treatment outside of Fairfield and Jefferson County, so I was wondering. And I know, transportation can be a really big issue for people, and that's something we've talked about before. There's 1015, but I don't know if they would. If they could accommodate people who are going to treatment, that was something that I wanted to look into.
It would depend somewhat on if that person has insurance or not. So like if that person has a Medicaid, their transportation would be through their Medicaid.
Okay.
And I can get you a contact list of the numbers for those if you would like.
If
Or-
it's court ordered, it wouldn't matter, right? Because it would just go through there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would assume anyways. I mean, don't quote me. but-
I'm on that board.
Do we want to go back to the 3rd Tuesday of the month? That's generally when we have our meeting. That would be February 18th. To address that issue. Would that
The
work?
third Tuesday?
That would be a potential supervisor meeting day,
Okay,
because we aren't here on the 17th.
okay.
Oh, because of,
We could do the
President's Day.
4th Tuesday in February, which would be the 25th,
And that meeting is for what group?
this group.
Opioids?
Opioid
Yeah,
work
Okay,
session.
so-
Right.
Just,
And then I'll know too, I'll be able to follow up with a Narcan public health dispensing allegedly. The 8:30,
and the date again?
25th of February.
25th.
are there any other deliverables that we need to do? Or action items? No, okay, Susie, thanks.
Well, if the superintendent is amenable to some kind of training or some kind of curriculum, maybe we could look into a good one, but I guess
Yeah.
we don't know that.
I know historically, when we've talked about that through the years, it always has to go to the school board.
Yep.
And then it dies. Historically, things don't get past the school board, but we have a different school board now. I'm not saying that won't work. But historically, we've had that conversation about bringing information into the grade school age level, because by the time some of these kids get to middle school, the abuse has already happened. So Stacy and I've said for years, you need to start this like in kindergarten or preschool, and everybody looked at us like we were crazy. But bad things happen to little kids, as we
Right.
know.
That's right.
So to your point, I think it would be great to have some kind of evidence-based training, but it's gonna take a lot of steps to get there and get it through the curriculum is what I'm
And I-
saying.
The other question I've had with the schools is if they're using a curriculum based, if they're already using an
Mhm.
evidence-based curriculum, is there a way to help support that? So that the
Yes.
funds that they're using to support that currently could be utilized in another fashion.
Right.
Yeah. And we would have to include, it's not just Fairfield, it's, Pekin's in Jefferson County, MS and MIU, MUM. I always get the wrong letters right, because it's like, Dr.
It's
Bell said to me
alphabet
the other day,
soup.
it's like, it's not MSA anymore, Chris. I'm like, I'm sorry. I am old school, MIU school, K through 12. So we have to think of that collaboratively as well with their curriculums that would need to be offered to, my suggestion to all of those districts.
Yeah.
So,
Chris, have you thought about getting a group, a small group in this? Group,
I have not.
going out and presenting something to the school board, so they know what's going on.
I have not. I think that's why Connie kind of wanted to meet with
Yeah,
the new superintendent. I've not even met him yet, honestly.
he's really nice.
Yeah,
Somebody that's,
yeah.
If they have any interest, it would be nice if we could find a curriculum or find some different curriculums and then present it to them,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think.
sometimes when people put a face with things, they thought they're going to say no.
right. Right. Can I put a copy?
Only don't sit on.
That's my state.
Stacy, thank you.
See you, Stace. Is did we answer your question so you kind of know? There's like 2 or 3 different groups going on right now. There's this opioid work session. There's the Alcohol and Tobacco Coalition, which used to be the one that met face to face at the fairgrounds. That came into fruition because of underage and binge drinking. Because Jefferson County was number 2 in the state at that time that grant was there. And then there's the there's
Mental
the
Health Alliance.
so we've got 3 different things. We got 3 different activity or groups cooking right now, so that's why it gets a little confusing sometimes too, but we're all just trying to work together and figure out what we need to do, so I appreciate the supervisors, all 3 of you guys being here today and hearing what we're trying to do with the dollars. I think it will be a very beneficial program. I know it's not just me that appreciated it, all the team that went, all of us went last year and it was really great, so
I don't want to be a stick in the mud.
go ahead.
I would remind us all that, any programs or any, whether it's, outcome-based curriculum or whatever, anything that's an ongoing expense might be problematic because this is a finite source. of
Right.
revenue.
Yeah.
Right, right, and Elizabeth, I don't know what you will need for reporting, if if you need to know, how many people attended or whatever, we can have an off meeting conversation about that after 12 cop, when you do a report for the
Oh,
opioid
well, yeah,
settlement
we'll just
money.
need to know how much money was expended, and they don't really,
It's not like a grant where they're asking for how many population were
the
served.
administrative
Okay.
burden is pretty low.
Okay, that's good.
That is nice.
That's a first.
We
don't
already
get
have the
settlement money,
money,
Ken.
they already gave us
Yeah.
the money, it's not like we have to prove
Okay.
it so that they can release
Okay.
the funds, we already have it, they just wanna make sure that we're using it for appropriate
Yeah,
purposes.
so I think maybe too, for community education and information, maybe that's something that we could work with internally then we could do a presentation or whatever and have a report to the supervisors to say that we expended this money for this reason and there was, 85 people attended this session or whatever, I don't know. So that way the public knows what we're spending the opioid dollars on,
It's good.
It
It becomes an educational piece.
does, like how many people did you serve with this money? I'm just used to having to do that. I'm used to having to justify things.
Well, and if we're gonna do the certificates, Chris, it'd be easy to say, hey, we
Right.
gave out 50 certificates or we gave out
Right.
100 certificates. That part won't be too challenging, really.
And ultimately, the supervisors will have to, okay, the total
Right.
funds, so,
Right.
there will have to be some sort of reporting so that everyone knows
Right.
what the total is.
Right.
Just my own information, if you're talking about the continued ed and stuff,
Uh-huh.
$20 and the $10,
Yep.
are you covering that out of these opioid funds?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that's why I asked that question, because I didn't know if we had enough money set aside. I just wanted to close that loop and ask again.
Thought
Yeah.
that's what you meant.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yes.
just for me, it was just clarification.
Yeah, yes. So between the speaker, his fee, the room fee, and the continuing ed certificates, that $20,000 will cover all that, so. Which is a good thing.
Anyway, to your question.
Yeah.
The only caveat I have with 1015 transit in court order is we're required by law, every day is open to the public.
Mhm.
If it's in town, it's a $2 one way, the only, and she's right as far as, you know, if it's a Medicaid, qualified.
Yeah.
Then it's, the transportation is free. And this might be something that y'all need to know, free transportation veterans for the medical. So if there's anything and this person happens to be a veteran, that would fall under that umbrella.
Right.
Mhm.
The rest of it is, we probably would have to have a conversation with the board and with the director and how we want to approach it if there was a level of expectation for, I guess I'll just say, you know, providing the transportation at no charge.
Right, or if the opioid funds were to cover it, that's
Like a contract. for
Right, some
so
sort
many
of
rides.
contract for so
Like a
many.
punch card.
rides.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I don't know, again.
That'd be a good thing.
We used to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
I'm
Yeah.
still,
contract,
Really want to-
or milestone, Now, milestones.
Could Chris Conklin be someone you use for that?
Google money.
say that again, Bethany.
So like she's talking about transportation for court. Chris
Right.
Conklin has that mobile companion taxi service thing. I
Right,
know he does like the ticket vouchers with the hospital. So if he knew like, oh,
okay,
this person has a voucher through the opioid dollars, that might be something he would do.
Right, because we'll sometimes order people to drug court that they have in Wapello County, 'cause we don't have one here.
Uh-huh.
But, or also treatment, is an issue for people,
Yeah.
or too.
So what I
Just
guess
give me
I'm
a-
saying
I'll-
is say we had
I'll
like
outpatient
$1,000 and they had a punch card and
Right.
it was like,
that would be nice. Or
Yeah.
start with 500 and see how it works.
Right, and I don't know which service would be the best to provide that, or which one we should.
I know Chris does it through the hospital is why I'm
Okay.
saying he might be able, or he might be willing to do it with you as well.
Okay,
So we
And
have-
I can send you his information if you need it.
Because we have the big bus,
Right.
and then we also have minivans with kids.
and that's through 1015, right?
And we just have individual vehicles, so we can transport one individual as opposed to having.
Right. Bethany, if you want to send me Chris's info, I know I have it, but you want to send it and then I'll forward it on to Elizabeth. So
Yeah, or Bethany, you could just send it to me if we're on, maybe we're on a similar email.
well, yeah, you are with that.
Yeah,
meeting.
I'm sure I have it somewhere,
Okay,
so
yeah.
I'll find it. I'll
Well,
put you
whatever
on
is
it too,
easiest for
Chris.
you.
Susie, thanks. Bethany, I'll see you at 1 on the other Zoom meeting.
Okay, am I supposed to do anything else? I feel like,
No, just be you.
okay, when I
Thanks for all
forget to
you
do
do.
something, you just tell me.
All right, I'm gonna get some of those sticky vinyl things for my office. He said no. He said no.
Then
Lame.
your budget?
Yeah, we could. All right.
I'll
bye, Bethany.
expense it. I'll pay for it. It'll be fine.
Thanks. See
Okay,
ya.
bye.